I think it'll take a moment. Awesome. Let me just check Twitch to make sure that it is working. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, hi John, how are you doing today?
Yes, good, thank you. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me. So if anyone has seen John before, you've probably seen him from Bit Project. He used to be a mentor last summer, and he's going to be joining us this summer as well in our mentorship program. And he's also a software architect. John, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I've been a programmer now for nearly 20 years, working in a whole range of different systems from desktop applications, mobile applications, and probably web is probably where I specialized more. Worked in Azure for about 7 or 8 years now. Um, and yeah, just like exploring lots of different things in technology. Yeah.
Exciting stuff. Okay, so if you want to find John, you can find him on Twitter at John Kilmister. And John, do you want to jump in and tell us what we're building today?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting project. I saw a blog post by, I think I'm going to pronounce the name wrong here, but it was Thomas Pendrina. But we'll share the link. But the blog post talked about how we can generate images inside Azure Functions. So that got me thinking about, well, what could we do with that? And what we've come up with is a small little project where we're going to create a sticker-like image that we can dynamically generate. So type in different words and it will generate different images. And we can use this technique for lots and lots of different things that we want to do.
I'm excited. Okay, so I'm just going to go tweet this out and share my screen and we can go ahead and get started. So what's our first step? I also want to add that this is going to be Azure based because it's part of our Bit Project series of how to build cool serverless projects with Azure. But yes, John, how can we start?
Great. So we're going to make an Azure function and we're going to do that in JavaScript today. So
Awesome.
if we just go to the tools.
I literally have a plant in front of me, so I can't see on my monitor. Okay, I can't. Now I can see Azure. So if you are working on this as your first Azure project, you might want to go check out one of the other Azure tutorials that we've linked in the description on how you can install the right extensions, but you will need Azure tools. You can just go into like the little extension section in VS Code and install that. It takes like 2 seconds, but once you have it, you'll sign into Azure and then you'll be good to go. We're already signed in. So should we just create a new project?
Yeah, so we're going to work locally for the majority of this time and get it up and running. And then we're going to start off really simple and just keep building on it until we get the final piece of work. So first of all, we need a name for it. So let's call it Sticker App.
Sticker App sounds good. While we're working on this, could you tell us what the benefit is or like why would someone want to work locally versus just deploying it or working on Azure?
Yeah, so there's a couple of reasons. The first one is the time. So each time you make a change and you want to see that change reflected, if you're choosing to upload that to Azure every time, you've got to wait a minute or so for it to happen. So you get that. But the biggest benefit is that we can actually step through the code line by line. We'll see an example of this later when we actually do it. But as the code runs, you can pause each line, have a look at it, go to the next line, look at it, and that really helps when you have any trouble. And it's called debugging. You can identify the problems easier.
Awesome. So hopefully we'll get a chance to also demonstrate how you can debug. My other follow-up question on that is there, when you're building on Azure versus locally, is there a difference between what your project looks like or how it performs?
Not hugely. There are differences, but not noticeable. The idea is that when it's running locally, it should be as much like it is up on Azure. Interestingly, the project we're going to do today does have some dependencies, and I don't know. I think you're running on a Mac, so it's going to be quite similar to the Linux environment that we're running in Azure. But if you're developing on Windows, for example, and you then decide to host it on a Linux environment, you might notice some subtle differences. For example, folder paths. When you're joining folder paths together, they might work perfectly fine on your Windows machine. But then when you upload it to Azure and you decide to host it under Linux, you might have some things that you need to tweak. And
Yeah.
actually, we're going to look at files later on, and I can show you a technique that means that it works both on Windows and on Linux. But yeah, so there's sometimes odd differences like that. You can obviously host Azure Functions under Windows or Linux, but yeah.
Now, yeah, I was asking because I recently did an interview with Gareth McComsky, who works at Serverless Inc. And he was like, he prefers working online versus locally. So that was the first time I heard someone say that.
Yeah.
So I was just curious about what your perspective is.
Yeah, you can do pretty much everything the same. But for me, I just find it easier to do it locally. What I'll often do is start a simple project, publish that, make sure that the basics work, and then carry on. Because you don't want to do like loads of work and then realize that you can't get it published. But
yeah, definitely there's a balance between like don't do everything locally and like spend way too much time without like seeing how it works on Azure itself. Okay, what is this? I've never actually thought about what decision I'm making here. I just click on
so this is the runtime, and at first look, it's kind of a mix of languages and frameworks. So you've got two sets here. We have Node and we've got .NET. I think if you scroll down, actually, you get a load more. You can write functions in Python, PHP, Java, Ruby, or whatever. So what you're picking here is the framework that you want to write against, or ultimately and that determines the language. So we're going to be picking Node, and by Node, it's JavaScript that you write to work in Node. But if we were picking like .NET, then it'll potentially be C#. So there's that aspect of it. And then, sorry, if you just go back again, then you've got the version. So here we've got Node 14, 12, and 16. The LTS stands for long-term support. So you might see, for example, .NET 5 there doesn't have LTS. So that will go out of support at some point. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. It's not too far out, actually. I think it's the end of this year, potentially.
Okay.
But there are other versions like 6, which has long-term support. So they're guaranteeing that they will keep that for a longer period of time. And all the dates for the different versions, the different frameworks, and the support are all online. If you can, try and pick an LTS version. So today we're going to be working in JavaScript. So Node is the framework that we want to be running this on. And we'll be choosing Node 14 today.
Sounds good. And then I'm guessing I'll just go with free. Yeah.
So you're actually creating, you're actually creating a function in Azure at this point, aren't you?
Oh, was I supposed to do something else?
Yeah, sorry, we're going to create it locally. But we might. So one of the things with this project that we're doing today, it's only going to work on a Linux Azure function. And we didn't actually get to choose Windows or Linux. So it'll be interesting. I think the default is that it will create it under Windows, but we can have a look at that in the portal. But for now, we'll just create a local function.
Is that over here?
So you were creating an app service rather than a function at that point. So
my bad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Should I do it in here?
So the app service is kind of the running environment for the function. So we will need to create an app service when we go to deploy it. And I don't think we got the option there, did we, to pick Linux or Windows? No. So I think that might be something we can only do through the portal.
Okay.
But for now, we'll focus on actually just creating the function, running it locally. So if we create the create the new project there, and then
okay.
There we go.
Should I just?
So now asking for a location to save it.
Sounds good. I'll create a new folder and call this Coding with John.
Okay.
Now we're on the right track. So I'll just pick JavaScript because that's the language.
JavaScript, We could use TypeScript. So JavaScript and TypeScript are very similar, but TypeScript kind of sits on top of it and gives you strongly typed objects. So
Gotcha. Do you prefer TypeScript for this project?
we'll go with just plain JavaScript today. It's slightly easier to work with. There's if we go through TypeScript, that would be my kind of default choice. But with TypeScript, we'd probably have to explain some other concepts and things. I think we'll keep it simple and stick with JavaScript today.
Yeah, that works out. The camp is in JavaScript as well, so it should match the curriculum. What type of function are we making over here?
Yeah, so we're going to go with a HTTP trigger.
Awesome. What did we decide to call it? Sticker?
Sticker app.
Sweet.
Yeah, and we'll just go with anonymous for now for this.
Awesome. And yeah, if you're curious about the difference between these 3 different authorization levels, we talked about that extensively in our previous tutorial as well. So I'll link that. Should I just say add to workspace?
Yep.
Awesome. And we have our function in like a few seconds, hopefully. Yep.
Yeah, so this is our template. Actually, do that later. This is just our template. So if you open up the folder sticker app.
The folder sticker app, yes.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. And we can see our index.js file, and that should contain our sample code. And if we just hit F5, we'll be able to just quickly run that just to make sure that our environment's set up correctly to run functions.
Gotcha. So F5 is the debug.
That's right. It's the shortcut for run with debug.
Gotcha. And what is the difference between running with debug? Running with debug means it will go line by line, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So what should I do next?
Yeah, if you just click click that, you might think it's Command and click, and that'll open it up in a browser window.
Awesome. This is really small.
And there we go. That's just the standard template. Doesn't do anything special.
Yeah.
Great. So we can now get on with actually building our sticker app. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to pull in an npm package. So if we stop the function from running a minute.
Yep.
And just go to the terminal. You can close that. That terminal is the one that's been running. So we just close that one and then just open a new terminal window.
Yep. My computer's a little laggy, so sorry about that. But
that's all right.
Yeah.
Great. So we're already in the right folder. So VS Code will automatically open that. And the package we're going to pull in is something called Node HTML to image. So I'll explain a little bit about this package. It's quite unique in some ways. So in order to generate images inside our Azure function, what we're actually going to be doing is opening up Chromium and taking a screenshot of some HTML. So we'll generate some HTML. That'll get rendered in Chromium, which is an open source version of Chrome. It will take a screenshot of that, and then it will close down that version of Chromium, and then it will provide you with the image.
Interesting.
So that's how the technique works behind the scenes. But we don't have to worry about that because that's abstracted away for us. And it's actually abstracted away in a couple of ways. So the Chromium install and the management of it is all done through something called Puppeteer, which is a library that allows you to automate Chrome and Chromium. That doesn't take a screenshot. Chromium supports taking screenshots, and you can do it with Puppeteer. However, Node HTML to image that we'll be pulling in a minute wraps Puppeteer and makes it really easy to provide it with the HTML, with a template, and it will automatically take the screenshot for you and manage all of that for you. So we've got a couple of layers of abstraction. We'll be calling Node HTML to image npm package. That will be calling Puppeteer, which will be automating Chromium all on the server. So you don't get to see any of it. And yeah, just a couple of lines of code will generate as an image.
Okay. And I think it was like relatively clear with the way that you explained it, but could you tell us a little bit more about the concept of abstraction, what that is, how it works, and why it exists?
So I'm kind of talking about it in the loosest sense as opposed to like an exact pattern as such. But there are different, you can always, I'm trying to think how to word this in the best way now, but it's like you could get involved in every little bit of doing something, right? But in order to not have to worry about that, we can just take a library or code that someone else has already written and then write against that. So I guess, to use a bit of an analogy, if this will work, it's a bit like baking a flan, for example. You
Nice
could
analogy.
make
Yeah.
the entire thing yourself, make the pastry, you could, whip up all the ingredients and everything. But equally, you could go and get a pre-made pie base, and you could get a packet mix that has everything pre-made for you. And you're not going to need to know how to make those base things because they're done for you. And it means you can have more time to decorate it. And it's very much the same with code. We don't have to always know about all of the little details. We can let someone else deal with that. And this is where the abstraction comes in. Abstract away that complexity into something that's simpler that we can just go and use. And you see it everywhere. So services like the cognitive services in Azure, we don't need to be AI experts in order to use those. It's abstracted that away for us. But even down to some of the simpler libraries, like reading a file off a disk, we're using functions that do that for us that are baked into the frameworks that we're using.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. I think sometimes I forget when I'm coding, like how much of it has actually been abstracted, and how much easier it is to code when you're like using those packages or using APIs and everything.
It is a balance. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're needing loads of performance out of your code, or if you're needing your code to be really small, say you're doing embedded systems, so you're writing code that's going to go onto a microchip, you need to make sure that code is super small. So you're probably not going to abstract things away. You're probably going to want to get in there and optimize every last little bit out of the code. A lot of these packages, although they do abstract away the detail for you, they also do a lot of things that you don't need, but the code is in there. So yeah, if you really have to worry about sort of performance or size, then you wouldn't necessarily abstract it away. But for 99% of the cases, you're not concerned about that.
Definitely. Okay, awesome. Let me pull up the screen again and we can get back into it. So you said that we were going to get this package.
Yeah. So it's npm for Node Package Manager and install. And now the name of the package. So this one is node -html -2 the word to to no to
TOO. Okay.
No,
HTML2. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Image.
That makes sense.
Right. And then
Awesome.
if we just hit enter, that will install it.
Awesome. If you haven't already installed Node, do you need to install it since we're working with Azure, or is that already part of the function?
That's a good question. I believe you would need to install it separately.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a prerequisite of installing the Azure extensions. It probably isn't, because, as I say, you can write functions with all sorts of languages and things.
That's true.
So
there's like a way that you can look at. I think it's like Node version --v or something, or
yes, it's Node -v.
Yeah,
there you go.
You can check if you want it.
Yeah, and that shows also that we're using version 14, which is the same version that we'll eventually end up using on the server. So what we've done,
is that the Node? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was asking, is that the same as the Node 14 LTS that we were looking at?
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah, so you need to make sure it matches. But not because if you were working against a higher version of Node than what works on the server, when you come to deploy your code, you might find it might not work.
Right.
Because there are features that you're using that aren't available in a lower version.
Okay, that makes sense.
Great. So we've we've now installed it, and we can now actually use this in our code. Now, to understand how to use it, it's probably best to go to the documentation for the component, which we'll jump across. Now, there's two places that we find documentation for. So yeah, if you just do a search for the package, so that first link is the npm package, and that would be my default place to go.
Okay.
However, oh yeah, if we go back to that. Yeah. So there we go. So that's the first place to go. Now, in some cases, the this README isn't necessarily up to date or has all the information in. So sometimes you need to go over to the GitHub and have a look at the GitHub README. But in many cases, they're a copy of each other anyway. So if we scroll down, and we'll find the first simple example that we're going to look for. We just go down.
Did I miss it? Oh.
No, I think what we're going to look at. Yeah, so what we're looking to do. So this library can do two things. One, it can actually output an image and save it to disk.
Okay.
But that's not going to help us because, although we could do it that way, it's going to save the image onto the server where the Azure function is running.
Right.
We would then have to find it and load it and then display it. So what we can do is we can actually output it as a stream of bytes,
right,
which we can then return as part of our function.
Okay.
So there is an example. If we go further down, I think here it is. There it is. Sorry.
This one. This one.
Using a buffer instead. Yes, it's here. So
yes.
Yeah, there we go. So what we want to do is where it says const image. Well, the first thing actually we need to do is require it. So the third line down in that example.
This one.
Yeah, is what we need. So in this example, they're actually running it not inside an Azure function, but inside a Node app that's running a web server, an Express web server. So that's what those first two lines are in this example.
Gotcha.
But the one bit we are interested in is the require. And
so this is basically saying you installed the package. Now you need to make sure that this file in this app has access to the code in that package.
Yeah. Okay. If you don't do that, it'll be installed but you just won't be able to use it. You don't have any name that you can reference it. This is saying, okay, go and find the files, and then we can start to use it.
Now, so anytime we need to access anything related to that package, we can refer to it with this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
So if we go now back to the example, this example here has a router.get. So as I said, this is running a web server, and that is part of the web server. When a request comes in, a GET request comes in, it runs this code. So we don't need that particular line. But what we do need is the next block. The const image equals the await. Yeah.
This part. Just this one section?
That's right. Just that one section.
Awesome. And should we put this inside of our async function?
That's right. Yeah.
Sounds good. I will get rid of all of these extra pieces of code.
Yeah, I was going to say that. You can get rid of lines 8 and 9 as well. So that was just the default thing that was just going to give us some text. We obviously need the response, but now we're not going to respond with a response message because we've just deleted the response message. We're actually going to respond with the image. Just write image.
Oh, perfect. So I'll just put a comment. Oh, we have an image. We don't even need to do that.
We do. Yeah.
Awesome.
So there's one more little bit that we have to do before we can run this.
I'm going to word wrap just so it's easy to see everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's on the screen. Okay.
It's the content type. So the content type is a HTML header that's going to be sent along with your response. Now, normally that content type is text, or but we're actually returning an image, so we need to add that in. So we
below body.
So underneath the body or above body, it just needs to be part of the response. One of the properties on the response object is header. Oh, sorry, it's headers. Oh, you might be able to say it that way.
Headers.
Headers, and then that is an object.
Okay.
So curly brackets, and then inside here, it's with a key of content dash type.
Let me see. Why is it coming? Oh, I need a comma. Is that
Yeah.
why? Yeah. And you said it is content type.
Yeah. And then a value of image/PNG.
/PNG.
You'll just need quotes around all of that.
Okay. Gotcha.
Around that. Sorry, no, around the value side of it.
Just image.
You'll need it around that, and then you'll also need it around content-type as well, because it's got the hyphen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the bare minimum. And if we run that, in theory, it should generate us an image that says, check out what I did.
Okay. Should I do debug it or should I do func start?
Either. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's try func start and hope that it works. I think, yeah, I think I already have this link opened up over here.
Yeah.
So let's reload it. I wonder if it's, is it just taking time?
It'll take a second or two to generate. It should be a bit quicker than that. But yeah, so this is what I was referring to about doing like a small bit of code and running it just to make sure that you've got something that works, because there's no point in doing all of it only to find out it doesn't work, and then you've got a lot more to work through to work out if it's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, if oh no, it didn't work.
Oh, so it's got a 500 error, right? So 500 error means a server error. So something's wrong with either our code or some of the code that it's trying to run. So what is this? Error, unable to launch browser, trying to connect the browser. Okay, it's a bit of a challenge. Why this doesn't work?
Only Chrome at revision. Is it something to do with my version of Chrome?
Shouldn't do that. It should be using its own version of Chrome for this. Chromium. That gets downloaded and installed as part of it.
I see.
Let's have a see. Unable to launch browser. Okay, so in this scenario, what we'll do, the first thing is to check the documentation back on that library. This isn't an error with your code. It's going to be an error with probably how the machine's set up.
Gotcha.
But if we have a look at here and to see if there's any, we scroll down and see if there's any kind of known issues or anything anyone is kind of mentioning.
I don't see anything.
No, or any... Nothing. Okay. Let's have a... I'm going to have a Google on my side as well and have a see if we can get to the bottom of this. I think it's... if this doesn't work, what we'll do is we can switch over and use my my machine if we need to.
That's fair.
So, but let's have a quick look to see if we can look at it. You installed the right package, didn't you? So can you just go to your package.json file? So this is when you did the npm install, it writes to your package.json file. So we can see what version you've got installed of. So if you double click on the package.json file.
Okay.
Right. And then, so we're using version 3.2.4 of Node.html image. Just going to check the version I've been running just to make sure that they are the same. Yeah, they are exactly the same. So let's just, and the error you got was?
The error, my computer's like really lagging right now, so it could just be an issue with my computer. There you go.
So what I'm doing is just doing a quick search to see if I can see anything that's that's looking similar. Okay. No, that's maybe not. One of the suggestions here is that, so where we've got several layers, so node to image to HTML is wrapping Puppeteer, and then Puppeteer is wrapping Chrome.
Right.
So if there's a bug in one of the lower items, it might take a little while for each person to update their packages as we kind of go through. So if Puppeteer makes a fix, then node HTML to image then also needs to kind of take that fix in. So
Right.
That's one of the suggestions that they have here. It says that we're missing a dependency somewhere.
Okay.
What was it? 3.2. What version did we say we were using?
3.4.
3.4, yeah. Okay. So this particular problem, I found an example of the problem, and but the person said, "Oh, it's been fixed." That particular one was fixed in that version. So. Yeah, so I don't know what you want to do at this point. If you want to try a few different things,
Yeah.
it is around setting up your machine. One of the suggestions is to install Chromium. On my machine, it is using Chromium, but it was there suggesting that it was, we could try that. So in order to do that, it's apt-get install Chromium browser from your...
I can just... Wait, from where?
From the terminal.
Oh, from the terminal. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake.
No worries, no worries. So you said it's app?
App-get. I think apt-get's on Mac, isn't it? And then install space Chromium Chromium dash browser, but there's no dash between the get and the install.
App-get install.
Yeah.
Maybe not app-get.
App-get isn't installed. Sorry, I'm not familiar with doing bits on Mac, so.
No worries. Let's see.
Maybe we can do it this way.
Oh, you can't see this too. Let me just install Chromium Mac. It's the same thing. So head to this link, choose your platform. Is it the Linux build?
No, you should be able to get it for Mac.
Let's try this one. Download for Mac.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I have it. Is it just this app? I have it installed now.
Yeah, can you open it?
Yep. Wait, it's giving me Chromium can't be opened because the developer cannot be identified. Huh. There has to be, I'm getting this error. Cannot verify this app is free from malware. You know, this stuff happens.
It does. It does. I'm sorry about this.
No, not your fault. I mean, if this doesn't work out, then let's just switch over to yours.
Yeah.
Let's see. Security and privacy. Where's the thing? Chromium was blocked. Open anyway. Open. Okay, I think it should work now.
Okay.
We still don't actually know if this is the problem or if this
exactly, yeah. So you might have. Let's see if it's doing anything.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay, I tried. Is that because we installed Chromium?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. It worked.
So For whatever reason, yeah, I was under the impression that Chromium kind of got pulled down and ran as part of that package. Maybe that's not the case, or actually, it's probably more the case that it does pull down part of Chromium, but there are some dependencies that are needed in order to run it. It's not an area I'm that familiar with, I'll be honest. So, but
No,
yeah,
no
we have an
worries.
image. We have an
We
image,
have
and if
an
you hit
image.
F12,
If I hit F12,
yeah, we get the developer tools up.
Yes, I got it on my StreamYard. 1 second.
Sorry.
Not your fault at all. Okay.
We'll get there. Right. So we can now see that that is a proper image. If you right click on that and go properties, or right click, sorry, not again, go elements.
If I click on elements,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go. So we can see that that is an actual image. You see there, image, and that's what it's pulling down. Right.
Yeah.
So
I just got a comment. Saying, "Is this Daniel's friend Shreya?" Yes, it is. Hi. I like that I'm known as Daniel's friend. Yes. What do we do next?
Great. So we've got an image. We've got it loading something. So the next bit is to go back to our code, and we're actually going to improve it. So
let's do it. Let's do something a little bit more complicated.
Yeah. So the first thing is, if you've noticed there, we rendered a huge white page with the text. Sorry, if you just flip back, you can see that quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's all just an image.
It's all an image. And we don't want to render the whole thing. We just want to render just the text as an image. So if we go back, we can put in here a selector into the div. So if we just put in, if we go to the div that's wrapping the text, and sorry,
like inside,
actually inside the div, yeah, and we can give it an ID or a class. Yeah, give it an ID.
Yeah.
And give it a name. So text will be fine. Probably we do want IDs to be unique. So I call it sticker text. We'll give it a.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So now we've got a selector. We can actually tell Node HTML to image to only render that. So as you can see here, Node HTML to image is a method, and it's taking in an object. And the object, we're setting one property, which is HTML.
Right.
We want to now add a second. That's right. We want to add a second property. So if after that, you just put a comma, and then on the next line, you just put selector. Yeah, colon, and then in quote marks, it's going to be hash sticker text.
Is it like that?
So it's pound if you're American, I think, the symbol.
This one?
Symbol. No, the
we're having translation issues.
Translation issues. I think it's called. It's the like a hashtag symbol.
Like a hashtag. Yeah, I should have gotten that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Okay.
You call that something else?
No, you're right. It's pound hash. My brain just didn't work for a second.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. In the UK, we just call it hash. It's never pound. But yeah. Anyway.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So if we were doing a selector that was a class, it would be a dot. If it's an ID, it's the hash symbol. So
gotcha.
So sticker text.
Text. I can't type. Sticker text. Yes.
Yeah. So what that's going to do is that's going to now tell it only to render that particular part as the rather than the whole HTML document, just that.
Right.
So if we go back,
we don't want this entire thing. We just want this
correct
section.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if we go back now, we can see that.
Should I reload it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
I see.
See what we're doing now. A div by default will kind of span the whole width, but we can deal with that. We can deal with that later.
Yeah.
So the next bit is about templating. So it's good that it shows the text that we've got typed there, but it'd be great if it could use the text that we want, right? That we pass in. Yeah. So there's two ways that we could do this. We could concatenate the string together. So just joining it together, and we'll start off by doing that, and then we'll replace it with a templating syntax. Okay. So, so if we take out the text,
let's just remove it. Gotcha.
Yeah. And just put two quote marks there. Sorry, single quotes.
Or single quotes. What's the difference between the two in this context?
So what we're doing is, and if you put plus, right?
Inside?
Yeah, no, just there, exactly where you go.
Oh,
So,
outside, yeah.
no, where you were.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we've done here is now we've got two pieces of text that we're joining together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what we'll do now is we'll now put in request or REQ is dot query string, I think it is.
So basically we're separating this out and then we're separating this out so that we can add something in between that isn't written in here directly.
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. So what are we doing? REQ?
Yeah, REQ dot. So that's the request that's coming in. And then we can use dot query dot text.
Query dot text. So that's what comes in from the endpoints parameters.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So if you press plus. So now we're joining three pieces together. So we have the HTML at the beginning. Then we have the query string parameter text that we'll be adding in. And then we have the rest of it.
Makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah. So if we now go back and go back to our function in the browser.
In here?
Yeah. And now we can add on to the end of that a query string parameter at the top.
Oh, yes. Okay. Does it matter what it, no, it has to be called, what did we name it?
It has to be called text because that's what we chose there.
So let's do text is equal to quotes. Do we need quotes here?
No quotes.
No, just anything. Hi, John.
Yeah.
Let's try that. So it was undefined before and now it says hi, John.
Yeah.
Parameter stuff, if I want to put a space in there, do I?
So it's well, if you put a space in there, Chrome will automatically work that out for you. It will convert it to %20, which is
cool.
Which is space.
I need to sneeze. Okay, I'm good. Awesome. That works.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to quickly show you how we can actually make this better by using a templating syntax. One of the problems with this approach is that when we get a really long document, having lots of bits like anded together like that, plus together like that, is going to be challenging. So there's a framework called Handlebars. Have you ever heard of Handlebars before?
I have heard of it, but I'm not super familiar with how it works.
Great. Well, we can have a look. If we go back into the web browser a minute.
Yep.
And go to a website that's called Try Handlebars.
Try Handlebars. Handlebars.
Oh, it's a try. I did write the website down.
Is it Barge? Is it tryhandlebarsjs.com?
It is, yeah. That would be it. Right. So this website allows you to try it out, and it shows you what it does. So Handlebars is what we call a templating engine. So rather than something like React or Angular, which is a whole big framework, this specializes on one thing, and that is taking a template, which you can see on the left, the template, a JSON object, which you see in the middle, and then when we run it, it will then output it, which we can see underneath. So if you scroll down just slightly, you can see the HTML source that's output. So we can see the template there has curly bracket title. The object that we're passing in has an object that has a property called title. And then when it's output, it replaces it there. So it's
it
really
basically helps us combine HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. And it can do quite a lot. It can do loops and various other things. But today, we're just going to be using it for this simple replacement. And
sounds good.
Yeah, it's a really good library. And if you're doing anything in the front end and you don't feel like you need to pull in or even learn the whole of React or Angular, it's a nice lightweight library that can do some simple replacement for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we now, and this is actually built in to Node HTML to image, so we don't need to pull it in and use it separately. We can just go ahead and use it straight off.
Okay, perfect.
So we go back to our code, and we remove. So let's put it back to just one piece of text and remove the request query string.text.
Okay.
Okay. So now we can use the handlebar syntax. So where we want it to appear, we can just put in open squiggly bracket, yeah, like that. And then we need to give it a name in there. So we can call it text or sticker text. Doesn't really matter. It's just got to match the object that we're going to create in a minute.
Okay.
So now we need to pass in the object, and that is another parameter on the object that we're working with. So we've got HTML as a property, selector as a property. We want to add in another property.
I'll call this just text so that we don't confuse it with the sticker text ID. Okay. And what did you say I do next? Add another property here?
Add another property there. And it's called, I'm going to have to refer to my notes on this. It is called content.
Content.
There we go. And it takes a JavaScript object. So you want to go curly brackets.
Okay.
Just single curly brackets because it's a JavaScript object that we're doing here.
Right.
And it has a key and a value. So the key has to match. So the key is going to be text.
Is it equals or colon?
Colon. And then the value is going to be, well, what do you think the value will be?
Or just anything that we want it to say?
Yeah.
So if I were, would it be the actual query parameter there?
Yeah, so you can put in something here if you put in hi John, but then every time you render it, it's going to say the same thing. So you're right. We can pick that up like this.
Okay. Awesome.
Great. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So basically, instead of like manually, what is the word?
It's concatenating. So joining together.
Yes, manually adding that parameter into this string over here. We were saying, hey, we want to actually just add a variable basically, and we're getting that variable from the content.
Yeah.
Or we're getting it from the parameter, and then we're
passing it in.
Passing it in. Okay, sounds good.
Great. So if we refresh our function, we should still see it working.
Yes, my mouse is stuck. Okay. And it should still say hi, John. But yeah, it's working. Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
So the next thing we want to do is I've got a template that makes it all look a lot prettier. So we'll eventually pull that in, but that template is quite long. So if we go to have, what we'll do is we'll go onto GitHub and we're going to pull down that HTML file.
Okay.
So if we go to github.com/blueboxes, so this is my GitHub repo, and the name of, if we go to that, then we can then find the file. So if we go to repositories,
yes,
and then we should see there the dynamic sticker sample. Perfect. So the code we're doing today, I've also got a copy of it here. And if we go into sticker, and the file we're interested in is templates.html.
Okay, cool.
Right. So this, as you can see, is a lot bigger. We've got about 50 lines of HTML here. It's not. It would work if we put this directly into our function, but our function is going to get really long. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a HTML file, and we're going to reference that. We're going to pull the text in from that HTML file. And we'll do that initially with the text that we've got, but later we'll replace it with the version that I've got there.
So I'll just follow your example and call it template.html as well.
Yeah, we could call it whatever we want, as long as we reference it. We're not going to copy all of this just yet. We will do in a bit. But I think the first thing we need to do is take our example, get that into the file, and then we'll do that. Is that okay?
Take our example.
So if we go back to scroll up, take that HTML there.
This one, all of it?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
And we'll put that into there. We'll take the quotes off. We don't need the quotes on either
right.
End.
That makes sense.
Okay. So all we've done is we've lifted it out into a separate file. And what is that complaining? That shouldn't work.
It's saying that there's too many. Oh, I have to pick one prettier. Yeah, okay. Awesome.
So
yes,
it's not super relevant to do this now because you've got such a small template, but when we make more complex things, you'll want it to be in a separate file. And I think it's a good way we can look at now how we can access additional files from our function.
That makes sense. How do we reference it in here, though?
Okay, so we need to pull in another requires, another library, but this time we're going to be using one that comes with Node. So we're going to use the file system one. So const fs.
Const fs.
Yeah, equals require, and then fs in quotes.
Okay. But we don't have to install anything here. It's already installed. We just
so this is one of a number of things that come with Node. It's a bit like if you're using .NET, you just use the system libraries and pull them in. Actually, most languages and frameworks will have file system access kind of baked into them.
Gotcha.
So you don't normally have to pull anything down for that.
Sounds good.
The second one that we're going to pull down is path. Sorry, not pull down. Sorry, that we're going to require is path. So const path equals require path. And again, this is also built in. It just helps us work with the path to the file so that we know where we get it. So that reads the file, and the other one helps us build up the location of the file.
And this helps us access the file, you said?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Now, the methods that we can use both have async and non-async functions. For now, we're just going to use the synchronous versions, the non-async versions, just to make things a bit simpler.
Yeah.
So if we move line 6 down a little bit, so just give us a bit more space because we need to read in the file and all of its contents before we can go and use it.
Right.
So if we just create a variable for the file content.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we're just going to set that equal to fs dot read file sync.
Read file sync.
Yeah. And then the parameter that you need to pass into this is going to be the name of the file. So in quotes template in quotes string template.html. And the second parameter we're going to pass in second parameter to that method is the second parameter to the file
parameter. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, just in quotes. If you just write UTF-8, and that's just the type of file.
Okay.
It's the encoding, so it's the way the file's written.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with and without the hyphen both work. In my version, I had it without the hyphen.
Without the hyphen, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that will give you the file contents, and then we'll be able to use that later. Now, where the path part comes in is that we need to know where that file is going to be located.
Right. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is on the line above 6. So just move 6 down a little bit first. So we've got the file name, but we actually want a full path to where that file is rather than just the name.
Right. Yeah.
So we're going to use another variable, which will be file name. So const file name equals, and this time we're going to go path.join. So what path.join does is, you know how a folder name has slashes in between each of the parts? Well,
yes.
In Linux, they go one direction. In Windows, they go a different direction.
Okay.
And path.join, and sometimes you might have a trailing slash, and you wouldn't want like 2 slashes when you start joining things together. So path.join manages all of that for you and just sorts it all out.
Okay, that's cool.
So the 2 things we're going to join together are our current working directory and the word template HTML. To get the current working directory, we're going to use a special variable that's defined as part of Node, and it's __.
Is that in quotes?
No, because it's a variable. So
okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got directory name, dir name there, you can pick that.
Mhm.
So that's a special variable that's set for you as part of working in Node.
Yes.
And the second thing we're going to join is the template.html. So we can just pull that from line 8 up onto that. But it's a second parameter. So it'll be a comma and then that in quotes.
And in quotes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So awesome.
Great. So now we have the full file name, including the folder. And why we use directory name there is because when the function is published, things move around a little bit, and it means that we have the correct working folder.
So here we can just replace this with file name.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now we've got the file contents, so we can now replace HTML with the file contents.
Awesome. So this is just loading everything that we have in here, which is the same as what we needed. Perfect.
Yeah. So if we run that, we should get exactly the same.
Let's try it.
But it does seem like we're doing a lot here, just the same again. And
No, I
again.
mean, we are setting it up so that we can make it more complicated in the future, which is
yeah. And that's how I work a lot of the time is
yeah.
you start with something simple and you just keep building it up bit by bit by bit and keep testing it so that as soon as something doesn't work, then it's, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So what should we do next? We've got, we can add in a font, I think, to make it look a bit prettier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yes.
adding a font is a little bit complicated, but we can work through that. This time we are going to pull in another library from NPM for working with fonts. So if we were just working with a normal HTML web page, we could just reference the font in the HTML and it can download the font and everything is good.
Mm-hmm.
With this particular setup, we actually have to embed the font in the HTML that we're going to render. I don't know if you've ever seen data URLs. Inside HTML, you can actually embed whole images or whole files as a data URL inside the HTML page. So rather than linking out to an image as you typically would, you could embed the whole thing in that page.
Gotcha.
So there's various times that you want to do that. But in this case, we're doing it because when the browser launches, we don't want it to have to go off to external places. We want it to be able to have everything that it needs.
Right.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to use this npm package to go and read a file and then turn it into a data URL, which we'll then put into the page.
Okay, sounds good.
And this is based on an example that's on the Node to HTML to image documentation.
Okay.
So the package we want is, so if we do an npm install, and it's called node -font, and this time it's a number 2.
Okay.
Sorry, no dash.
Is it spelled out?
No.
Wait, what?
Delete one
No
more.
dash. Font 2.
Okay. And then a number 2, and then no dash again. Sorry.
No dash. Don't be sorry. I'm just like going.
Consistency in that package names. Base 64.
Base 64. Okay, what is base 64? I know we've seen that previously in our curriculum with like images and image types and stuff.
Yeah, so it's an encoding, which I guess is a way of saying it's a different representation of the data.
Right.
So it's a way of, it's not encrypting the data. You can convert from base 64 and you can convert back out of base 64, but it's just a different representation of the data.
Gotcha. Okay. And I just click enter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that'll go and grab that. So this library is going to take a file and convert it into base 64, which we can then put into a data URL into the page. The next thing we need to do is actually go and grab our font. We're going to go to Google Fonts and download the font that we want. Now,
Okay.
the font that I'm using, if we just go to Google Fonts, is a great place to get free fonts for your project. And we could use all sorts of different fonts, and people can play around with different things. But I know the one that kind of works with the project that I'm working on. So let's go with, it's called Titan 1. So if we just search for that.
Titan 1, yes.
Yeah. Great. So Google Fonts allows you to link to it, or we can actually download it. So we're just going to download the file.
Okay.
That's downloaded as a zip file there. So
yes. Okay, I have it. I have the
Right.
TXT and the TTF files.
Yeah, so we need the TTF file, and we're just going to add it to the project. So into the sticker app folder.
Oh, in here, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
we just need to just drag it in.
Perfect.
Oh, so not the whole folder, just need the actual file.
The TTF or the TF?
The TTF.
Okay, cool. Let me pull this out. Move it. And we don't need Titan 1, so we can remove that.
Did it move it out? No, cancel. Sorry, cancel that.
Did it not?
You moved the text file rather than the font.
Huh, sorry about that. Titan 1, move. Okay, I can remove this and I can delete this as well.
Yeah.
Don't want too many weird files that we're not using. Awesome.
Yeah. Great. So all we've done there is we've downloaded a font, and we now have it on as part of our project. So we can read that, just like we read the HTML file, we can actually read the data. TTF stands for True Type Font, and it is a font file. If you double click that, your it will actually open it up, and you can you can't open it in VS Code, sorry, but in your on your machine, if you double clicked it outside Visual Studio Code, it would open up and show you what the font looks like, at least on a Windows machine.
Coding with John sticker app.
There you go.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could install it and use it locally if you wanted to, but we're not going to install it. We just want the data that's in that file. So now we need to read that in. So we're going to do something very similar to this. Actually, that's a good point. We do need to pull in that.
So I'm just going to call it font, and it's, what was it?
It was node-font to base 64. There we
font
go.
to base 64.
Great. So yeah, what we're going to do is build up the file path now to that font file, and then pass it in to that. So so we can probably get rid of line 8, and if we just get rid of line 8, because line 7 and 9 are really close, they're related to each other, so we should keep them
I see what you mean. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we can do this, Anthony. Yeah.
So this is font name.
File.
And then I'm just going to copy the same thing that we had above. Still directory name. And then what did we have here? Oh, this is templates. So this is going to be this. I'm just going to copy so I don't mess it up. Is that good?
Yeah, that's good. So now I've got the name, and now we can actually use it. So if we create another variable called font data.
Font data.
Yeah, and we're now going to use the method that comes on the imported. So it's font dot encode to data URL sync.
Data URL sync. It's down
here.
There
we go. So with a lot of these methods, you're not always going to know instantly what they do. It's a case of going and reading the documentation. And in this case, the Node to HTML had an example of this, and that's where it shows you how to read in fonts.
Okay, sounds good. I just fixed my variable names because I realized I was like, the name conventions were not matching up. So do we need parameters in here, or is it just going to automatically work?
No, we do need to tell it what we want to decode. So the first parameter is actually the only parameter is the font name path.
Font name.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
So we now have the font data as base 64.
Yes.
And we now need to put that into the page.
Into this?
Yes. So this is unfortunately something that I couldn't quite. The base 64 data is really long. It's a large block of information. And for whatever reason, the template, the handlebars templating wouldn't insert it into the page. With a bit more investigation, I probably could have got it to work. So what we're going to do is actually put a little bit of HTML and then join it onto the front of that file content. So that file content is just a string. We read it from the file.
Yes.
And we're going to put in some HTML that goes in front of it.
Something like that. So we're going to have HTML in here. HTML.
Yeah. So it won't be it won't be a HTML tag.
Okay.
I wonder what the easiest way is probably to copy this off the what I've
GitHub?
done on the other screen. Yeah. So if we just go to that one there,
here?
and just go up back and go to the index.json. Yeah. So yeah, if you just copy, as you can see there in the HTML.
Oh, cool. Style.
Yes,
do I need this space in here?
You don't need the space, but you do need the backtick.
You do need
we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail in a minute. If we copy that across.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Okay. So take off your quotes as well. Right. Yeah. Okay. So you want a little plus there, and then where I've got font data, yeah, you can get rid of that.
Font data, where do you have font data?
Right in the middle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is, if we scroll up, you called your variable font data with a small d. So
gotcha.
Change it.
Oh, so we're using backticks here because we want to be able to refer to a variable in this file.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so earlier on when we joined strings together, and then we decided to use the handlebars templating, an alternate way of doing that, and probably a tidier way if you've got a small amount of content, is to use backticks, and then you can use this syntax. It's called string interpolation, in order to kind of inject it in there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, what we're doing is we've got our we're loading in the font. We're saying there's going to be a font, and it's called Titan 1, and here is the URL, but the URL is actually a load of data. That we're going to be putting in there. And that now means that we can use the font. So if we go to our template, we can now put in some styles in here. So if we put in their style equals, and then in quotes, font-family, and then colon, Titan 1.
Just no spaces?
No spaces. Titan space 1.
Okay.
Hoping that will work.
We'll try it.
Yeah, I might have got the name slightly wrong.
That's okay. Oh, it worked.
It works. Great.
I love it when it works on the first try.
That's great. And we can play around with those styles quite a lot. So if, for example, we could in that style block there, we can extend it and put so after that put a semicolon
within the quotes.
Then we go font dash size to colon 200 or large, whatever you want. So
nice.
px, you need to say it's pixels.
Px, yes.
So it's just CSS. You can apply this. It's going to go.
Look at that. Wow.
Yeah. So you see how we're slowly building this up. As that's just a HTML document, you can put your style tags. You can put it as style tags at the top. You can do inline styles. It's just a HTML document that's being rendered and then saved as an image.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So what is a place where we would want to use a project like this?
So there's a number of places. You might use something like this to generate custom banners for your website, or custom like images for. So you could take in a parameter, and you could generate a mashup of different emojis or something like that based on those parameters. Or it's whenever you want to create an image, and say that image can be then used on a website, or you could download the image. I did some stuff with maze generation, and I wanted to output a set of JPEGs that were mazes. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of different uses for it. So that's the basic technique, and that's looking really, really good. What we can do is we can pull in my HTML, and that's got a load of predefined styles. And if we just pull that in, then we can make it look slightly snazzier.
So let's go into your templates.html file. Also, one of our attendees, our Fuel Snable, is asking what's happening here, what we're building.
Okay. Well, you'll see it soon. So we're building an app that will generate images from HTML inside an Azure function.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just gonna, should I just add the rest of your HTML?
Just replace it all. So
just, the entire thing?
The entire file, yeah. We will talk through it, so I'll explain what it's all doing.
Sounds good.
Okay. So what we have at the top here is a style block. So that's just
let me just share this with in the comments before we explain it, so people can check it out as well. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so the first bit is we're just defining a load of styles. We're defining the stroke, which is the paint order, which is the order that we're going to be rendering everything. So we want to, when we run this, what you'll see is that it's text with a really thick white border. So the paint order means draw the border first and then draw the text on top of it. The stroke is the border, which is going to be white and 20 pixels wide, so quite chunky border around it.
Yeah.
The stroke also has a line cap, so you can have like square or round. Font weight and font size, we're going to make it italic. We've set the font family like we did before. I've actually sent font weight twice. That's a mistake on my part. One will just override the other. The font style is going to, and again, font style I've overridden, so we can get rid of the italic font style.
Get rid of the italic
one. So this is me playing about, and I obviously didn't.
Doesn't matter. It's not going to like impact it too badly.
No. Yeah. So, and we've got text transforms. So this is going to uppercase everything you type in, and it just gave it a nicer aesthetic. It just looks slightly better. So all of this is just playing around until you get something that you like. The final bit is the is a drop shadow, and that gives it a bit of a drop shadow just to change how it looks.
Nice.
So that's the styling. We then have the text. Now this text is what we call an SVG. So for those of you who haven't seen an SVG before, it stands for scalable vector graphic, and it's effectively an image that you can resize without losing any quality. Now, I chose to do it as an SVG in here because of the paint order only works in Chrome on SVGs. But you can play around with lots of different things. A lot of the styles will still work on normal text as well. And it's got a rainbow gradient that I've applied to it.
Love it. We did get a question from Fuel asking if you know how to do stuff like outer glow and inner glow.
So you can do some of that with CSS3. The only thing to be aware of is this is based on Chromium. And sometimes Chromium isn't as up to date as Chrome is. So it might work if you load it in a Chrome browser, but not. But yeah, there are lots of articles online on how to do things like the inner and outer glow. But yeah, have a look at CSS3, and that'll explain how to do that.
Awesome. And then what's happening below here?
Yeah, so this last bit is a little bit of JavaScript that'll get run. So as well as HTML, JavaScript also gets run. Now, the reason this JavaScript needs to be run is because it's going to be resizing the SVG.
Right.
So the SVG won't resize itself on the width. We saw it on the previous example where the div went all the way across the page.
Yeah.
Now, with divs, that you can get them to fit the text automatically, but with the SVG, we had to do it after the text was rendered. So it draws the text, and then this little bit of code will measure the text and then make the SVG the same size as the text. So it's a little bit of a hack, just to tidy things up.
Love it.
So yeah, glad I didn't have to type all that.
So, I mean, yeah, we have the link to the GitHub repo. I'm going to just give it a little star right now. So if you guys are watching, you should go give it a star. But yeah, let's see what happens. Should I
There is one bit that's slightly different on my version to your version. And that is the selector. So as you can see here, text.
Back here.
So the text has a class here of sticker-text.
Yes.
Right? We've got the replacement string of text, which matches yours, but the selector doesn't. So we've got two options. So what do you think the two options are?
So one of them is is it that I just changed this or I changed the template?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we either change the selector here, and it's a class, not an ID. So it's got a dot rather than a hash.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if that had been left as it was, it would have just rendered the whole page again. So we just would have ended up with a very big thing. They just need to match. That's with a lot of this. It doesn't matter too much what you call things, as long as you don't use any reserved words. But yeah, it's just going to match.
Awesome.
Let's see if this works.
I'm just really impatient. Oh my God, this is so cute. I love this so much. Okay, this looks drastically different from what we had before, but it is exactly the same concept. It's just what we had before with more styling. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't think that it was worth spending the time today to go through kind of building up all that styling, because that's not what we're really talking about here. We're talking about the techniques on how to render images. But yeah, you can pretty much anything that you can render in a browser, you can output as an image. So,
I'm thinking if you're like a sticker store, like you're selling stickers to people and you want them to be able to automatically generate whatever, like they just put in a little bit of text. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this would be a cool way to do that. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This, like looking at it with the styling helps me kind of see the actual real life implications a lot easier than the previous version. So I'm glad that you had that code prepared.
Yeah. There's one last thing that we want to do to it. And that is, if you go back now to the index, one of the extra parameters that we can pass in to node HTML to image is just to set a transparency. So we're currently rendering this as a PNG, and PNGs support transparency. So we can just put transparent :true, and then if we save it, it has a transparent background now. So we can save it down and we can overlay it onto another image if we wanted to. It's true without the quotes because
it's just
it's just a Boolean.
Yeah.
So it probably won't look much different actually in the browser here. But when
see,
you go
like if I try to drag it, you can see that it doesn't have the background anymore. Nice.
Yeah.
I really like this.
So we've got a little bit of time. Shall we publish this up to Azure now so we can actually use this remotely?
Let's try it. Yeah.
Okay. So because it's using Chromium, we've got to do things slightly differently than we would before, like you would with a normal function. We actually needed to do the building part, the compiling part, on the server, not on your local machine.
Okay.
And in order to do that, we need to make some tweaks. So if we go into the project on the left-hand side and look at the function JSON file.
In where? What am I looking at?
Just in the code on the left-hand. The code, yeah. Sorry, not in the code. Sorry, in the file explorer there.
Oh, function.json. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's not. I've said that, but it isn't function that I want. If you open the .vs code folder, it's just slightly higher up.
.vs code. Yes.
There we go. And I'm just going to refer to my notes a minute because it's it isn't something that we do on a regular basis.
I don't think I've gone into this folder before.
No, a lot of this is it's kind of settings that are set up as you use VS Code. So you have all like the launch and the various bits and pieces. What we want to go into is settings.
Settings.json.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, in here, we need to add an extra line, which is going to be, I'm just, again, sorry, looking at my, I'm just trying to, just checking my, so this is, I'm just going to,
Yeah, take your time.
Just check I get it right. So there's one extra line that we need to add, and what that will do is that will tell it that we need to do the publishing in a slightly different way than normal.
Okay.
So I'm just
sounds good.
Just going back to the original blog post. As I say, this is based on a blog post, which again I'll drop the link in, or can you drop the link in the chat for people to have a look at?
For sure.
Yeah.
Did you send me the link to this? I don't.
I will.
Or is it in our notes?
It's in our notes. Yeah.
Yeah,
so it's it's right at the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what it's based on. I'm just going back to here now to just double check the setting that we need to get this to work.
Okay, I'm sending the link to a blog post in the chat right now. It's a medium.com post.
Right.
By Media.
There it is. And actually, if we open it up, we can copy the line that we need, and I can show you where that is. So.
Oh yeah.
I've lost the window with you in.
That's all right. It happens anytime you're on stream. Things just disappear.
There we go. Right. So this is the blog post that talks about generating images.
Yes.
If we scroll down a little bit and we find the link, in the middle. Go up a little bit.
Scroll down.
Right, up a bit.
Oh, up here.
There you go. Stop. So the other article he refers to is running headless Chrome in Azure with Puppeteer right in the middle. So if you click that.
Yes. Oh, Anthony. We love Anthony. He's one of our mentors too.
Yeah, exactly. So Anthony wrote a post about how you can automate Chromium using Puppeteer. And then then Thomas built upon top of that and showed how you could dynamically generate banner images for your website in his blog post. And then what we're doing today is we're taking that a step further again and adding in fonts and styles and explaining it. So a lot of things are building upon what previous people have done. And as long as you give people credit for the work that they do, it's a really important part of the way that we work.
Yeah.
So if we scroll down a little bit, in Anthony's article, you'll see, if you keep going down a little bit, it talks about how you deploy these functions. We keep going down a little bit. This, interestingly, is the code if you were going to use Puppeteer directly rather than using image to node image to HTML. If we go down, sorry, a little bit more. It says about deploying to Azure. Here it is. Yeah. So the line we're interested in is this, the bottom line, is Azure functions.scm. There we go.
I will just copy it because it's too much to.
Yeah, and that's why I suggested going there. We can also remove the pre-deploy tasks and the post-deploy tasks. We're not going to need those anymore.
So we can just remove these ones and post-deploy tasks.
Yeah. Sweet. Great. So that now means that we can deploy it. And what it'll do, as it explains in that article, is that it's now going to do the building actually on the server, which means that it will work. We need to set up somewhere to deploy this to. So if we go into the portal, we're going to create a app to deploy it to.
Portal.
So that's portal.azure.com.
Yes. I need to make sure I'm logged into the right account over here. So I don't even know which account I'm logged into. How do I check? I guess if it's Azure for students, then it's probably my student account. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to need to, do I need to authenticate it? Nope, I think it's working. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, it worked. Wow. Awesome.
Great. So if we go to, there's no subscription.
Wait, I think there's a way for me to fix this. Switch to UC Davis. Okay. I've had this issue so many times. Okay, now we're in the right place.
Great. So we go to function apps.
Apps.
And we're just going to create a new function app.
Create a new function app.
So the reason we're doing it this way is that we want to make sure that it runs on a Linux plan.
Mm-hmm. Is this going to be an issue if my subscription is disabled?
Oh, it probably is. Yeah. We can do it on, well, we can run through the process. We just won't be able to actually publish it. So
that's okay. So we'll create a new resource group.
I think we'll be able to create it. We can at least go through the screens and you can see what they look like. So the resource group is just a grouping. So just for keeping things organized and for setting permissions and policies and things. So, and then we've got a name that we need to have, which has to be globally unique. We're going to publish code rather than a Docker container. And then we see again the runtime stack, which we talked about before, but this time it's split the runtime stack separate from the version.
Yep.
So we want Node because we're running JavaScript, and 14 is the version that we saw we're running locally. So we're going to match that. The region, you want to pick the region that's closest to you, ideally, or the closest to your customers, whatever you're doing. It has to have a storage account in order to work. And as you can see here, it defaults the operating system to Windows.
Yes.
And this is where we want us to choose Linux.
Gotcha.
So this technique of running up Chromium only works on the Linux servers inside Azure Functions. I'm not sure if you can pick Linux if you do this through the through Visual Studio Code, and that's why we're doing it this way.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then we can use consumption as the plan. So if you did want to do it on a Windows server, you could do a non-consumption version and various other options. We don't need to worry about networking and monitoring. Normally, you would enable that as well. So it's probably not going to let you create this app because your account's disabled. But that's the process we would go through. And then once we've done that on this side, we'll then be able to deploy the app from VS Code. It should then list that function in there, and you'll be able to deploy it because we've made that one configuration change that we needed to.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of it.
We did it. Okay, just quickly, I'll add to it. Once you have created your app, which we can't do right now, if you click on any of them, let me click on, I don't know what these are, but let me just click on one. You should be able to go into your functions. Is this where we would go to for like the next step? Okay.
That's right. Yeah, we don't actually need to go in and do that.
Okay.
So you will be able, once you've created it, you can then go back into VS Code, go back into there, and you can see all of your functions. And when you click deploy, you can then select where you want to deploy it to.
Gotcha. So we're just building the function app on Azure, and then we'll deploy it to this new function app that we've just, the sticker app. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
That makes sense.
That should all work.
Yes. And once we've done that, you can reload the actual function app on the portal, click into that function, get the function URL, and then you should be able to use it.
Yeah.
In the same way that we were using it over here, but without the localhost endpoint. Now we'll have the actual Azure.
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. That was great. Let me remove this from the screen. I love the sticker. It's so adorable. I want to put my name on it. But yeah, this was a great way for us to kind of see a very different use case for Azure, because I don't think I've ever tried building like stickers or building images with HTML for any type of project before. How did you come up with this idea?
That's a good question. I mean, I've done dynamic image generation before for things.
Yeah.
So a really good use case of it is generating multiple size images for like online shops where you want like the mobile, you want a small image, desktop, you need a larger image. So using dynamic image generation is actually a technique that we use quite a lot. I'd never done it in functions before. And I thought I'd just have a look to see if it was possible. I was originally thinking that we're going to have to build it inside sort of a Docker container and do something around that. So, but I found this blog post, and I could then take that, build upon it to come up with something slightly different. And then when looking into it, I spent most of the time doing the styling and making it look pretty. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That is a very vital part of it. Yeah.
It is. It's very important. But yeah, just trying to find. I always like trying to find new ways to bend the technology to do something slightly different. So it's not a technique I've used in production or necessarily kind of would see an immediate need for. But it is a technique that hopefully has shown some other things that you would use more frequently, like referencing individual files with the file system API, like using pulling down the Google fonts and things, and those various techniques. So I think even if you're not going to necessarily generate images in functions, hopefully we've all picked up something extra from that.
Yes. And we do have a question. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat right now. But is function app the same thing as AWS serverless model? Do you know?
It's very similar. Yeah, they've got something called lambdas, I believe. I haven't used AWS, but yeah, I believe that is pretty much the same.
Awesome. Well, let me pull up. I already put it up on the screen earlier, but if you liked this video, if you're watching this on YouTube later, go ahead and like this video and let me see if I can type this properly. Subscribe. This is so fun. I'm going to use this all the time now. Thank you so much for joining us today, John. It was a great demo. I agree. We have a comment that says that it was a great demo. I learned a lot. I was like, I removed John. What am I doing? Oh my God, there's so much happening right now. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
That's okay. And I'm glad we got it to work after that when Chromium nearly died. I was early on, but we got it back. So.
Yeah, we were like sweating. We were like, what if this doesn't work? But we got it. So if you do run into that issue where it's not working the first time and you're getting that error where Chrome is like not being supported or something, then go ahead and install Chromium. Like make sure if you're using a Mac that it has the permission. You can go into this privacy settings and give it permission. But yeah, that was awesome. I am excited to see you as a mentor this summer for the Bit Project Serverless Camp.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Bye.
Bye.
I'm going to end it.